All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, I was trying to sleep, and as I usually do when I'm trying to sleep, I was thinking about Paladin stuff and specific videos I'd want to make and yada yada yada. And since I had some Paladin versus Shaman footage, I decided I might try to make a Paladin versus Shaman guide for Season of Discovery. So I started thinking about different things and options and so forth and so on. And as I was thinking about the various different runes and whatnots, it suddenly dawned on me that I hadn't actually made a video dedicated to my thoughts on the new Paladin runes and the mixing and matching of things in general. And as I was looking over things, what I eventually discovered was that I really needed to have a conversation about these two runes right here, specifically Divine Light and Righteous Vengeance. So Righteous Vengeance, I don't know if anyone's done the math on Righteous Vengeance yet. Lord knows it should come up in like combat logs or I don't know, like raid logs or whatever the hell. But Righteous Vengeance is basically terrible. Damn it, I need to cough 1 second. Righteous Vengeance is basically worth a 5% increase in your attack speed, like your auto attack speed, basically. And that's at like the low end. That's at like the PvP end, a non-raid environment, non-world buffed, yada yada yada. When you're in a world buff scenario, it's worth probably more than double that in the grand scheme of things, especially when you're world buffed. So I consider this rune to be relatively bad game design, even though I have I have nothing to give to try to improve it in any way, shape, or form. But I will point out that it's bad game design in the sense that the difference between its performance at the highest level and the difference between its performance at the average player base is going to be rather extreme. Because its value with world buffs is so much more than its value without world buffs. Even though Blizzard, gave warriors and I suppose imagine other classes as well the equivalent of warrior buffs just in case they get wiped out. So that's kind of nice. But as far as PvP and stuff is concerned, this thing is basically absolutely useless. The reason for this is because when you're PvP geared, you're going to be running around with at most like a 20% critical strike chance. When you're fully raid buffed and in a 40-man raid, I think you're running about a 40% critical strike chance, somewhere around there. And if you start doing the math on this damn thing, very, very, very quickly, it comes back that's only worth like a 5% increase to your auto attack speed. Just for the sake of argument, I will do that math right now. So we'll assume your Judgment's on an 8-second cooldown, your Divine Storm is going to be on a 10-second cooldown, and your Crusader Strike is on a 6-second cooldown. That means that there's 24 total seconds and 3 GCDs running. So we got to divide that by 3, not just once, but twice. So what this is telling us is that one of these 3 abilities, assuming like perfect rotation or whatever, will be activated every 2.66666, whatever the heck, seconds. Okay, cool. When one of these when it does successfully proc, it's since it is 50% of a critical strike damage, and we have to assume that all of these are basically doing roughly the same amount of damage. For the sake of my sanity, we're going to assume that they're all doing about an auto attack's worth of damage. We also have to assume that when they crit, they do double damage, because most of these, when they crit, will do double damage. It means that every activation is worth the equivalent of like an extra auto attack's worth of damage. Very, very rough estimate to get us within the ballpark of the math of what the hell is actually going on here. And what this is telling us is that it's going to activate every, blah, blah, blah amount of seconds. At 20% critical strike chance, we multiply that by 5, meaning that this is going to activate once every like 13.33 seconds. However, It doesn't stack, and it's prone to overlap, so we're literally just going to round that up to 15 seconds. Again, the reason why we're rounding it up to 15 seconds is because if you get 2 back-to-back criticals, basically one of those criticals was completely wasted, and this math is assuming that that just doesn't ever happen, even though it is going to happen. So there's a bit of diminishing returns the higher you get up your critical strike chance, which is kind of interesting. Right. So we're doing an extra auto attack's worth of damage every 15 seconds. But even that is not a true statement because your auto attack as a paladin, due to the seal system, is actually worth a hell of a lot more than just an auto attack. So, for example, if the auto attack is worth X, then your seal of martyrdom is worth, like, typically 50% of X. Sometimes more, sometimes less, blah, 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 right? She suffers, one of those suffers from being reduced by armor. The other one suffers from being reduced by seal of the casino. For the sake of just trying to get in the ballpark of the math of what the hell's going on here, we're going to assume that they're basically even. And basically, an auto attack is not worth X. It is worth 1.5 X worth of damage due to the seal system. And you'll notice that we said that Judgment is worth an auto attack, Crusader Strike worth an auto attack. Roughly all 3 of these are worth an auto attack. That means that all 3 of these are worth X when an auto attack is actually worth 1.5X. Meaning that this activation is actually worth 2/3 of the value of an auto attack, which means then I have to come over here and divide this by 3, times it, and then times it basically by 4. Even though that math it hurts the brain, basically I have to divide this by 3 to get an extra third, and then add it onto this, because this is basically how do I put this? Is that how that works? This is X, right? I'm getting X worth of damage every 1.5 seconds, and I need 50% more of it. No, that's not how that works. I literally have to multiply this by an additional by 1.5, because this is X worth of damage, and I multiply by 1.5, and next thing you know, we're getting an auto attack's worth of damage plus seal, including the seal, worth of damage out of this piece of shit rune every 22.5 seconds. Dear fucking God. And of course, if I multiply that by 5, very quickly you can see that that's not even that's like 4.5 times 22.5 equals, yeah. So this rune, if you have 20% critical strike, which is what you're going to be outside of raiding conditions, is worth to you as a paladin a whopping 4.5% increased attack speed worth of damage. Whoop-de-fucking-do. So this rune is actually mathematically terrible. There's other problems around here because there's literally nothing else here worth a damn to take. As a DPS 200 paladin, Lord knows you can't take Shock and Awe. You're not taking Righteous Shield, and Divine Light is definitely... we got to talk about Divine Light in a second. But just know that this rune is absolutely garbanzo. In raid conditions, she starts performing a lot better, because while 4.5% increased attack speed is terrible, by the time you get into raid conditions, because your critical strike actually doubles effectively, this thing gets multiplied upwards of ×2, although there, as stated, there are diminishing returns off of this piece of shit as you get, due to overlap issues, as you get more and more critical strike. So it's probably only worth about an 8% increase in your melee attack speed. This rune, no matter how you cut it, is complete and utter fucking trash, especially when you can compare it to the DPS runes that a bunch of other paladins got. The only good thing about this rune is that there is a shit ton of room for improvement for it, so that if Blizzard ever decides they just magically want paladins to have more DPS, they know exactly what fucking rune to buff, because there's no other options here, and she is complete and utter dog shit right now, which means there is an ocean of world to buff this thing. So from that sense, it is good future-proofing game design, but as it stands, complete and utter dog shit. Okay, moving on. Divine Light is the other one that I really need to have a conversation about. I'm sure a lot of people have done, hopefully, other healing based paladins have done posts, like more knowledgeable healing based paladins have done posts on how bad Divine Light is. She's actually objectively terrible. But I'll just go through why she's so insanely awful to begin with before I start talking about the PvP stuff. So, the first thing to note about this thing is that she's like over 900 mana. I can't get on the PTR right now because it's closed, but she's like 920 or something stupid like that mana-wise, when really she needs to be like 750 to 800 mana. And the reason for this is because she doesn't really have a better spell power ratio than Holy Light, which is by far the biggest problem of this thing. She becomes a little bit better and a little bit more serviceable when you talk about PvP, but even then she's incredibly niche. So let's just talk about it for a second. So the first thing you have to know is that paladins, when they are healing, need something that is spammable, if that makes any sense. So your healing options historically have been spamming rank 1 Flash of Light, followed up by big boy heals like max rank Holy Lights. Other options are spamming max rank Flash of Lights, Forever and Ever and Ever, only followed up by like I think it's like rank 5 or rank 6 Holy Lights. Basically, you down rank your Holy Light to whatever rank of it has its highest spell power ratio, and then that's just the rank of Holy Light that you use because it causes you to have maximum healing for mana efficiency as far as a Holy Light spell is concerned. It's the same reason why use rank 1 Flash of Light, right? She's following the exact same principles. 35 mana for, the same spell power ratio as a max rank Holy Light. My bad, Flash of Light. Divine Light cannot be downranked. That is a huge fucking problem because it means that she is nowhere near as spammable as like your downranked Flash of Lights, or even your max rank Flash of Light, or even your downranked Holy Lights. You really have to compare her not to a max rank Holy Light as far as a healing efficiency is concerned, but the actual far more efficient downranked Holy Lights, which I think is like rank 6 or rank 5. I can't really remember. But by far the worst thing about this is she doesn't even have a higher spell power ratio behind her than Holy Light, which means that even in my PvP gear, my Divine Light crit heals were healing for like 4,500, and my Holy Light crit heals were healing for something silly like 3,800 or something stupid like that. And actually, I think it was like 3,500 to 3,800 for the Holy Lights. And the vast majority of this was coming from the fact that both of them only gain plus 400 from Blessing of Light. Both of them have the exact same spell power ratio. So despite the fact that this thing is healing for, let me look at it. She's healing for like 800 more healing or some or so on average. By the time you start factoring in any amount of spell power ratio, this thing becomes absolute fucking dog shit. So Divine Light is only really, really good if it's placed on a class that has little to no plus healing. Okay, you follow me on this? If she's put on if you put it on a Paladin that has a bunch of plus healing, this thing is fucking useless. It is like a 50% increase in mana cost or more if we're factoring in downranking for like not even 20% increase in healing. Absolutely fucking terrible. Okay, terrible, awful, horrible, just blech, gross. Which means in a PvE environment, absolutely fucking useless. Absolutely fucking useless. Only really good on like pulls or like super hard boss fights, or if the boss is about to do some like mega Chad giga damage or something like that you can anticipate it with an absorb shield or something like that. Like it's absolutely terrible. What's fascinating about it is there aren't any other good options here for a Holy Paladin. So it's like, well, I guess you take this. Here's where things get really interesting. An observation I had on the subject, however, not in a good way. Name which of these runes scales with spell power. Which of these runes here in this slot scales with spell power? If I'm a spell power based paladin, which of these runes scales with spell power? See, it sounds like a trick question, but I just got done explaining that if you have spell power, this rune is fucking useless. Keep that in mind, right? So does this rune technically scale with spell power? Fuck no, it does not. Because the more spell power and or plus healing you have, the more this thing basically becomes obso-fucking-lete. Righteous Vengeance, only the Judgment at best scales with spell power. So the answer is like, and that thing doesn't times 2 crit on the Judge. So what the fuck are we even talking about here? The Shield, I don't think scales with spell power. And Shock and Awe doesn't scale with spell power. So there's nothing here even remotely worth taking. If you're like a spell power based paladin or a plus healing based paladin, it's just all terrible. So this rune is fucking terrible. This rune is also absolutely terrible. Okay, here I actually do have some ideas about how to improve on this. I also had some ideas about how to improve on this. My brain immediately was like, Righteous Vengeance sucks. I would prefer just to have like Seal of Vengeance. And then my brain was like, rather than having Righteous Vengeance, what if we just gave us the like the Seal of Vengeance dot effect? Would that be too powerful? What if it was attack power based and my brain just went off into a weird little tangent? But this is fine. I mean, it just needs to be buffed significantly. Other than that, everything here is fine. This one, on the other hand, like I said, she needs to be like 750 mana. Because again, she's in competition with the downranked version of Holy Light with a bunch of spell power behind her. The only other thing that you could do that would even remotely make her good, and I'll explain why, but this is primarily a PvP focused thing, but to a lesser degree PvE as well, is if, and because this, I just find this far more interesting, if Divine Light was not subject to spell pushback, meaning that, yes, she's an expensive heal. Yes, she is a mana inefficient, expensive heal, but she is the only heal that you have as a hardcast heal as a paladin that you have in the game that you can do with suffering no spell pushback if you're like a control ret paladin, or if you're a ret reckoning paladin, or if for some reason you're in a raid environment like Fire Maw and you're forced to have your fire resist aura up, and it sucks because you can't have concentration aura up, so you're suffering spell pushback issues every now and then. Fuck that. I'm just going to use a Divine Light because I goddamn well need this spell to go off right now, or otherwise I'm going to be up shit creek without a paddle. It's far more interesting and dynamic game design to me if the increased mana cost on this piece of crap is the fact that it ignores spell pushback on top of everything else that it has going on. Because it at least allows paladin classes that... Okay, so there are 2 paladin classes that desperately need a more powerful Divine Light. My bad. I'm a more powerful Holy Light. I'm going to check. Alright. What are you doing? Need to check on the dogs. What are you doing? Bingo boys? Who knows? I'll check on them in a second. I hear them like tearing up something over there. I'm like, oh, crud. Okay, so the 2 paladins that desperately need a more powerful Holy Light are the ones that don't take a lot of plus healing. And they are most deep ret paladin builds don't take a lot of plus healing, and then Holy Ret Reckoning doesn't take a lot of plus healing. And those classes or specs are also the ones that don't even take like spell pushback, so they don't even bother to take the ability to heal in combat. And they're the ones who would actually look at this and be like, well, if I actually do need to repent the target and heal myself, because I only have enough time to heal myself once before I want to charge up my auto attack and bitch slap them again, and I don't have a lot of spell power. I want the big boy heal, and they would definitely take the big boy heal. And of course, if you're a Repent Paladin, you don't want to take Righteous Vengeance at all, because a fucking dot on your enemy can mess up your rotations and your repents. This is a PvP perspective now, okay? So if you're a deep ret paladin worth his salt, you'll know that repent is best used not to catch your enemy, but to heal yourself and prepare to bitch slap the enemy, or both, if that makes any sense. So, for example, you can repent the target and go Holy Light, Holy Light. You can repent the target. This is assuming you don't have to run up to them. You can repent the target, put one Holy Light into yourself. No, literally, it's bitch slap the target, put one Holy Light into yourself, and then wait for your auto attack to come off a cooldown and start smacking them again, right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. It gets even better than that, right? So you auto attack, Crusader Strike them. Both those things are on cooldown. You repent them. Not even that, you like judge them too. Yeah. So it's best used in that scenario when you're already physically on top of the enemy. The other best use scenario case is you were on top of the enemy momentarily, like you caught them with a grenade, you ran up to them, you bitch slapped them a few times. So you hit them with an auto attack, you Crusader Strike them, you judge damage into them, they come out of it, they grenade stun you, and they run away. After 3 seconds of running away, they're going to be like 26 yards away from you or something like that. They're still in repent range. You repent them. You take the time to put like one Holy Light into yourself, and then you spend like the next like auto attacks worth of seconds of repent time left running up to them, while your Crusader Strike's on cooldown, while your Judgment's coming off a cooldown, while your auto attack's coming off cooldown, and rinse and repeat. Using repent to purely catch your target is a terrible, 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 awful, no good. What the fuck are you thinking? Waste of repent. Which means that she does not play well with this rune whatsoever. And she doesn't play well with this rune because the best use of your repent is after you've smacked someone around with an auto attack, a Crusader Strike, and a Judgment. And if any of those fucking crit, you're going to put a fucking dot in this piece of shit that you'd rather not be there. It's counterproductive. And also, you just happen to be the class that could really benefit from having a Divine Light. And the exact same, a similar thing plays out with Ret Reckoning. Ret Reckoning is just trying to fucking kill you. They ain't got time for this dot bullshit. They're just trying to make you fucking dead. And so while there's no other DPS option here worth a damn for them to take, if they do need to heal themselves, they are traditionally a class that has very little plus healing. They would like the big boy heal. At least the big boy heal is useful to double Holy Light themselves and then press W towards the enemy again during a bubble. If you have to do 3 Holy Lights to fully heal yourself in classic World of Warcraft, you done fucked up. And that's just how it is. So, again, the classes that could really make use of this are also typically the classes that would very much like some anti-spell pushback. So options to fix the rune are, of course, reduce the mana cost significantly down to about 750, and just note what she's in competition with. Slightly buff the spell power ratio. I'm not 100% on this, but I think the spell power ratio of Holy Light is 80. You will note that some of the most damaging DPS spells in the game are like 70%, for example. So like Lightning Bolts are 70%. I think Smite spell is 70%. All those jackasses are on a 2-second cast. I don't think you can make her 100% spell power ratio. I think that's breaks the meta of Classic. But you could easily pump it up to like a 90% spell power ratio, or if Holy Light's already at 90% spell power ratio, make it 100% spell power ratio. That would at least help. It needs to have a little. It needs to have a little bit more spell power ratio than Holy Light, just so that Holy Light doesn't start closing the gap on that scaling. If that makes any sense, as you start stacking the plus spell power. But yeah, like I said, worst case scenario, she's got to come down in mana cost. Even if you buff the spell power ratio, she's still got to come down in mana cost. Jesus fucking Christ. Absolutely fucking useless. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Yeah. So as a PvE paladin, I'm like, wow, this thing sucks balls. And then as a PvP paladin, I'm like, oh, this thing could be useful, but still sucks balls. You're just gonna take it over vengeance. I don't know, man. I'm trying to think here. What is? There's another thing I wanted to say. Blah 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 blah. It has to do with like Sacred Shield. So one of the reasons why. So in classic World of Warcraft, rank 1 Flash of Light, and yeah, what am I trying to say here? Oh, what I'm trying to say is mixing a spam of really slow casting, like really heavy healing spells, and mixed in with a spam of smaller healing spells in classic WoW was the way to go. Like flashes of light and holy lights, like that's your bread and butter. You're doing a hell of a lot more flashes of lights than you're doing holy lights, but Lord knows you are mixing in holy lights when they are needed. But you're doing your best to get away with nothing but flashes of lights. In Season of Discovery, this is less effective because of all the like hot benefits that are going on. Like Sacred Shield's hot, and then Fanaticism's critical heal hot, which means that a max rank spell like this suffers from the fact that what if it crit heals? Well, if it crit heals, it probably overhealed the target and put a shield on it, but it also put one hell of a Giga Chad dot on the target. Like the target just got like a massive fucking Fanaticism dot. Which means at that point, you don't even really want to try to overwrite it with like Flash of Light, like mathematically speaking. So what do you do as a paladin? Do you just stand there with your dick in your hand and like not cast anything because you're afraid it's going to crit heal and it'll override the absolute insane Giga Chad dot? Or do you grow a brain and just like spam downranked holy lights and call it a day, or max ranked flash of lights and call it a day? This thing is just just go away. Shoo. Will I potentially end up using it in PvP? I have no fucking idea. But yeah, so I was thinking about like what to take mathematically, and I was like, wow, the rune slot options here are just absolutely garbage. And then I started doing the math on Righteous Vengeance, so I was like, dear fucking God, kill me. And then I started looking into Divine Light a bit more nuancedly, and I was like, guh. Just guh. Even the ones that can really make use of this is kind of like meh. So yeah, Deep Ret Paladin is the only paladin I can think of off the top of my head that will absolutely take Divine Light to the bank. Every other paladin build is like I can't heal in combat, and or I have plus healing or spell power, so this thing is hyper mana efficient and fucking useless. Like, what are we even doing? Even from like a tempo play perspective, which is what I was excited about initially on this thing, it's not very good. And of course, there's nothing here that even remotely synergizes with spell power or spell power ratio whatsoever because of all the downsides of Divine Light. Countdown ranker, 2 mana intensive, horrible. I think that's all I really want to say in this video. There might be some other things, but I can't really remember. Oh, right. Light's Grace and the new Libram that I think it's every time you Holy Shock or something like that, I can look at it really fast, can't I, Paladin? Go over here, we'll click on the Librams, yeah. Your Holy Shock spell reduces the cast time of your next 2 Holy Lights by 0.2 seconds. Okay, well, if downranking Holy Light and spamming the crap out of it is a thing, right? Because we can do that. Why the hell wouldn't I be taking, like, is it Wrist? Why wouldn't I be taking Light's Grace? There's nothing else here for me as a healing paladin, so I would take Light's Grace. Holy Shock is not the worst heal in the world. She's like a more powerful Holy Light, but less mana efficient. Even though, if she crits, she gives you your mana. I guess, yeah, she's a less mana efficient whole up. So very quickly, I can get down-ranked, spammable Lights Graces. Holy Lights rolling off of me every, 1.8 seconds. That's kind of gross. Yeah, we'll call that gross. Yeah, and so, in theory, right, you could get the big boy heals, not downranked, rolling off you at 1.8 seconds. Yes. Except you realize that, it's been 10 seconds of you doing this crap, and you're literally out of mana. Like, what the fuck? So, yeah, terrible, awful, no good. A huge part of the problem, of course, is the spell power ratio, and the fact that it's 2 mana expensive for it not being able to be downranked. What else is there to say? That's about it. Ooh, maybe it was the chest. Hallowed Ground, Divine Storm, Aegis, Lordaeron. I can't remember what I liked or didn't like about this stuff. Back. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll end the video here, and Day of Assault, boys. So, yeah, the game design on the back options is a little bit hilariously bad. Like, I just don't know what to tell you. You could do more. I like the idea that this thing is being held in reserve for buffs later to help balance out Paladin. If that's the case, then, congrats on really good game design. Divine Light, just, what am I supposed to do with this? How am I supposed to use this? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. Like, I literally don't know. Rebuke, Hand of Sacrifice, yada yada yada. 30% damage taken, 12 seconds for until the caster. What is the cooldown on Divine Sacrifice? I forget. I think it's like a minute or something like that. Yeah. Inspiration Exemplar, yada yada yada. Anyways, I'll end the video here, and Day of Assault, boys.